You've probably seen the headlines: sudden rains, early morning knock and talks, family caught off guard, and you wondered what a mass deportation actually would look like if it happened on your street. And the unsettling part about this is that during these operations, ICE doesn't give warnings. They don't wait for appointments, and they don't just target the person they're looking for. They question everyone in the home. Right now, across the country, people are being approached at their doors without knowing what their rights are, and a simple mistake, like opening your front door, answering a question, signing the wrong paper, can change their entire case in minutes. Hi, I'm immigration attorney Zaira Solano, founder of Solano Immigration Law Firm, and in this video, I'm showing you exactly how mass deportation sweeps work, what ICE is allowed to do, and the specific steps you need to take to protect yourself and your family. Because once you understand these rules before anyone knocks on your door, you can avoid panic, you can avoid costly mistakes, and keep control of the situation, starting with what these operations actually look like when they begin. Let's start by talking about the word mass deportation and what it looks like in real life. When people hear that word, it sounds huge and scary, and it is. Mass deportations in the United States actually mean that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is tasked with rounding up a large number of people in a short amount of time. This could be because of new government order or a change in priorities. You could suddenly hear news about raids happening across cities, neighborhoods, and workplaces. Sometimes ICE will come door to door as part of these operations. People usually don't get warnings. They may show up early in the morning when they believe families are home. Their goal is to find people who have removal orders. Those are deportation orders. People who overstayed their visas or people who have certain criminal convictions, but they may ask about everyone else that's in the house. This happened already in big cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York during past enforcement surges. It's not just happening in border areas. You might hear about raids in your own town or even on your block. Sometimes ICE comes in plain clothes, not uniforms. Sometimes they knock politely, other times they bang loudly. You might be scared, and this is normal, but knowing what to do ahead of time can make the difference. Let's talk step by step about what you should do if ICE appears at your door during a mass deportation operation. If ICE comes to your home, the single most important thing to know is do not open the door unless they show you a warrant signed by a judge. And here's why. The law says you have the right to privacy in your home, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not. And ICE officers cannot illegally enter your home without any permission or a judicial warrant. They might say things like, "We just need to talk," or "We have some questions." They might even say that they have a warrant, but many times it's just their own paperwork, not signed by a judge. This is critical. An administrative warrant, which ICE can sign themselves, is not enough. Only a judge-signed warrant allows them to enter without your consent. So if ICE knocks, you do not have to open the door. You can talk to them through the door or a window. You can ask, "Do you have a warrant signed by a judge?" If they slide a piece of paper under the door, check if it's signed by a judge. If it's not, you do not have the right to let them in. Most times, people feel pressure to open the door because officers look official and seem insistent. Stay calm. Opening the door may be seen as you voluntarily letting them in, and that changes everything legally. So keep the door closed until you see a true judicial warrant. If you live with others, make sure everyone in the household knows the rule. Children, roommates, even your guests, everyone should know not to open the door to ICE. Practice what you'll say if someone knocks. Being ready is the best protection. Suppose ICE insists that they have a warrant. Here's what you do next. Ask them to slip it underneath the door or hold it up to a window where you can read it. A real judicial warrant will be signed by a judge and will say something like United States Court at the top. It should list your address. If it's not specific to your home, it's not valid for entry. A lot of times, ICE will show an ICE warrant or administrative warrant, and these aren't enough. They often have forms called I-200 or I-205. These do not give them permission to legally enter your home. Take a close look. If you're not sure, take a clear photo with your phone or write down the information. Sometimes officers will try to rush you or get you frustrated. Stay polite but firm and say, I need to verify this warrant signed by a judge before I open the door. If it's not a judge's warrant, keep the door closed. If it is a judge's warrant, you may have to let them in, but even then, you do not have to answer any questions without a lawyer present, and you do not have to sign anything. A real story from my own practice. I had a client whose home was visited during a large scale operation in Texas. I showed paperwork that looked very official, but it was an administrative form, not a federal warrant. Because the family kept the door closed and calmly asked for a judge's signature, ICE eventually gave up and left. If they had opened the door, the officers could have just walked in. That's why this step is so important. Let's say ICE is outside your door. Or in rare cases, maybe they're already inside your home. You still have rights. You do not have to answer any questions about your immigration status. Officers may ask, where are you from? Who else lives here? Are you a U.S. citizen? You don't need to answer these. You can simply say, I want to use my right to remain silent. And in fact, you should say as little as possible. You do not need to share your country of birth, your date of entry, or your visa status. Anything you say could be used against you later. Even innocent answers can cause problems. If they pressure you, do not argue or fight. Just repeat, I'm using my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. You don't have to sign those papers. Do not let them trick you into signing anything or giving up your rights. Here's another practical tip. If you're with children or others who might be frightened, remind them that they don't have to answer anything either. Everyone in your house should know this ahead of time. Silence is your right. Use it. This part is tough, but so important. Do not run. Do not fight. Do not physically resist. If ICE does enter your home, stay calm. Running away or struggling could lead to criminal charges or make your situation much worse. I've seen it happen. Instead, stay calm, let them know you want to cooperate, but you are using your legal rights. If you're arrested or detained, ask to speak to your lawyer immediately. Do not sign or agree to anything without legal advice. Sometimes ICE officers will threaten you, and they'll try to scare you into giving up your rights. Stay firm. Remember the stories you may have heard about people being deported because they panicked and signed documents they didn't understand. Please don't let that be you. If possible, try to remember the names or badge numbers of the officers and what they said. Have a family member, friend, or a neighbor as a witness if possible. Write it all down as soon as you can. Those details can help your lawyer help you. Preparation is key, not just for you, but for your whole family. Have a plan in place before anything happens. Decide who will be the main point of contact if someone is detained. Memorize important phone numbers, especially your lawyer's number. Have copies of key documents like birth certificates and immigration papers in a safe place. Talk to your children. Even though they're little, they should know what to do if ICE comes. Practice saying, my parents told me not to open the door. Make sure everyone knows where to find important documents. Choose someone you trust to take care of your children if you are detained. Write out a plan and share it with family and friends. Some families keep a folder or an envelope with all their emergency information ready to go. This includes your lawyer's business card, a list of emergency contacts, and copies of documents. I've worked with families who felt less afraid and more in control because they had a plan. It can make a huge difference. Finally, if ICE comes to your home, contact your immigration lawyer or a trusted legal organization right away. Even if you aren't detained, let your lawyer know what happened. They can help you figure out what to do next. If you are detained, your family should call your lawyer immediately. Do not rely on promises from ICE that they will let you go soon or that you don't need legal help. Good lawyers can stop wrongful deportations, challenge unlawful arrests, and get you out of detention. Trusted organizations can also help. Have the phone numbers of groups like the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the local immigrants' rights groups, or your local consulate saved in your phone and written down. Remember, you're never alone, and taking these steps can make all the difference for you and your family. Today, you learned exactly what to do if ICE visits your home during a mass deportation operation. We talked about why you should not open the door, how to identify a real warrant, why it's smart to stay silent, how to avoid getting in trouble by running or fighting, and how to make a family plan, and when to call your lawyer. If you want to protect yourself even more, you need to know about new rules that could affect green card holders in 2025. I'm revealing everything you need to know and what to do about it in my next video. Green card holders, beware. New deportation crackdowns revealed. Don't miss it. It could be the key to keeping your life on track. See you over there.